Hi everyone! Today I'm going to be reviewing and analyzing the book Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. I'm not just going to summarize the book for you and tell you if it's good or not, but it's good, you should read it. I'm also going to analyze the book through an intersectional lens. I'm going to keep this video spoiler free in case you haven't read the book yet, but I do hope that my analysis has value to you after you've read the book to see whether you agree with my analysis and my ideas or if you noticed something different. The book is written from the point of view of Keiko Furukura, who is a 36-year-old woman in Japan who has been working at a convenience store for the last 18 years, much to the dismay of her family and friends who want her to get a serious job and settle down and get married and have babies and all of the other social signifiers that are considered important. But Keiko is very good at her job and she's happy. So all of this pestering and pressure is really unnecessary and unhelpful and is the source of a lot of the conflict that takes place in the story. The book was originally written in Japanese, and this English version that I have that I read was translated by Ginny Takemori. I want to name that because I am not Japanese, I am sure that I missed on a lot of the nuances and the cultural signifiers that a Japanese reader would have been able to pick up on. But I did get a lot out of the story, and I was able to analyze it based on my cultural understanding of my culture. All that to say, it is a good book and I got a lot out of it, and I think you will too, even if you are not a Japanese person. What makes the story so strong is that Murata has explored the ideas of gender and class through the story, and that she has a palpable love for misfits, which is a feeling that I personally can relate to a lot. She's not writing about a misfit to make fun of them or to give the reader this circus experience, ooh, look at that misfit, aren't they a freak? No, this book is written with love, Keiko's character is written with dignity, and if those things weren't obvious right from the start, I think I would have hated this book. One of the most compelling details about Keiko's character is her talent and her perceptiveness. She's able to hear these micro noises from bottles clinking or wrappers folding and able to anticipate like she's playing chess, moves ahead, what's gonna happen next. And she's able to do that in such detail that she basically becomes an expert at her job. She's able to anticipate how many water bottles need to be stocked, or should we have ice cream out, or should we have frozen yogurt out, or should we have chocolate out? All of these things based on the weather that day, stuff on the news, if there's construction in the neighborhood, what time of day it is, what season it is. She's able to hold all these factors and make accurate decisions to just be really good at her job. She's really good at her job. The reason that I'm emphasizing how good she is at her job and the details of what makes her so good at her job is because if Keiko was a doctor or a lawyer, I think the readers would have had a much different response to reading about her expertise. And that is how Murata kind of holds you as the reader and helps you confront this internalized classism that we are all socialized with. Someone's expertise at low status jobs is so undervalued in our society that if Keiko was, instead of noticing these things at a convenience store, if she was a doctor and she was able to be a surgeon, a game of chess, anticipate this might happen, then this happened, and listen to these details and know these details to do surgery successfully. Or if she had the same approach in defending a client in the courtroom where she can anticipate oh, this person's gonna say that, then they're gonna say this, and then I need to say this, and I need to then present this evidence because that's gonna make me win my case. Then we'd be wow, she's super cool, what an amazing person. No one would be telling that person to quit their job and settle down and have a baby. But because she's doing undervalued work, we think that her level of expertise and talent in that field is strange. While Keiko getting married and settling down is a pressure on her, the biggest pressure that she experiences from her family and friends is about her career. No one can understand why she still wants to be a convenience store woman after 18 years, and they're all expecting her to quit and then finally do something serious. And then as you're reading that, you realize that the pressure that she's experiencing is actually rooted in classism and people's inability to properly value labor. Another stylistic choice that Murata makes that works really well in this story is that she takes these subconscious habits that we all have and she names them. and she makes them explicit. And it kind of forces you to confront like what is actually strange and what is just perceived to be strange. So for example, people subconsciously pick up speech patterns and cadence based on who we talk to the most. That's just a true fact about humans and how we use language. So when this very normal human behavior is written in a way that it lays out every move that your mind makes, like step by step, like I said a thing, I look at people's facial expressions, how are they responding? Are people laughing? Are people uncomfortable? Are they smiling? And using that to say like, I should say more things like this or fewer things like this, like we're all doing that in our head. But to have it written out that way, when Murata brings that process to your awareness, she's taking something mundane and she's making it compelling. There's a scene where Keiko is having lunch with a friend that she hasn't seen in a few years, and the friend makes some sort of offhand comment about like how Keiko used to talk normally, but now she's talking strangely. And I think Keiko's response to that is really telling of what Murata is trying to communicate to the reader. After all, I absorb the world around me, and that's changing all the time. Just as all the water that was in my body last time we met has now been replaced with new water, the things that make up me have changed too. When we last met a few years ago, most of the workers were laid-back university students, so of course my way of speaking was different then. Another example of this is that because Keiko is in a job that is most frequently held by like part-time college students, it's not very common that she gets to interact with people that are in their 30s like she is. So when she finally gets coworkers that are in their 30s, she wants to talk like them and dress like them and relate to them. And she does this by looking at their shoe brands, looking at what stores they shop at. She like very explicitly says that she's not gonna buy exactly the same things because that would be weird, and it would be weird. But then she's like reading blogs by 30-something Japanese women that dress like her coworkers so she can start shopping at the same stores. We all do this in some capacity, right? Like if our friends wear something that we like, we're gonna wanna wear something like it. If we join a job and we notice that everyone at work dresses a certain way, we're gonna want to dress that way too so that we can fit in. But I kept thinking, like, why does it feel so strange to read it this way? Like, these are all normal things, but it just feels strange to read it written in this way. And I think part of it is because of a detail that Murata reveals about Keiko very early in the story, which is that when she was a young girl, she didn't used to speak, and she was considered a strange child by people at school, by her family, by her teachers. She's presented to us as someone strange, so we think that her actions must be strange, even when they're not. And I think this was an intentional choice by Murata. I think this is something she wanted the readers to grapple with. I think one of the quotes where this really comes to light is a different scene where Keiko is at a different lunch party with her friends, and it's kind of the same, you know, pestering and badgering, like, are you still working at the convenience store? Don't you want to get married? Let me set you up with so-and-so. And she thinks, when something was strange, everyone thought they had the right to come stomping in your life to figure out why. I think that is a major theme in this book, and it's something that like breaks the fourth wall a little bit, because you find yourself doing that as a reader, and it names it, so you're like, oh, I should not do that. I think one of the points that Murata is making is that our idea of normal is a social construct and is likely inaccurate, and we should be more empathetic. Another thing that I appreciated was that Keiko's character was not written with the male gaze at all. And I know what you might be thinking, like, you know, the author is a woman, of course, but you can't actually assume that just because an author is a woman that the book doesn't have a male gaze or the characters don't have a male gaze. It's really refreshing to see a character like Keiko be likable and her character be written in like a nuanced and intimate way, without her needing to perform for the reader or be pretty for the reader. She can just exist exactly as she is and still be likable. I think that's a really hard thing for a lot of writers to do, and I think that's something that Murata has done really well. Keiko likes working at the convenience store because things feel equal for her there. Everyone wears uniforms, people trade different tasks, and other than the manager, everyone is at an equal status level as far as the work is concerned. And then this woman, who really isn't all that strange, is happy with her life and her job, did have an intrusive thought about killing her nephew one time with a cake knife because he was crying really loudly, did actually hit a boy with a shovel when she was younger to settle an argument, so you're not quite sure how she responds in stressful situations. This woman starts working with an incel. And like any well-written story, what happens next is unpredictable and also inevitable. Murata has an eye for the weirdness in all of us, and she presents that in a grotesque but non-judgmental way, kind of in the same way that Ottessa Moshfegh does in her characters and in her books. And in doing so, she lowers your guard and allows you to practice questioning norms and questioning your own beliefs, and I think come out the other side a more empathetic person. If you've already read the book, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to my channel, and I will see you next time. Bye!